How are you doing today?
Just fine.
My God, you have got a book here that scares the living hell out of me. Because, I mean, this is one of those books that could actually come true.
Oh, well, yes, well, the good guys win in the end, so let's hope so.
Listen to you. Did you go into it with that idea that when you started writing, oh, the good guys are going to win, so I just got to figure out how they're going to do it?
Yes, well, I hope the reader is in suspense for a while. Until they find out how bad this Big Pharma is and how dangerous their product is and what's going to happen. Yes, but this kind of book, you want the good guys to win and the bad guys to in some way be defeated.
Well, I'll tell you what, the front cover of this book, I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but my God, it got my attention immediately. And
good.
Oh,
glad to hear that.
Were you part of the design of this?
No, I had nothing to do with it. The publishers have a professional book designer or cover designer, and they do it. Well, I get to add some suggestions, but that was in the hands of a professional.
Well, listeners need to understand that this book starts off, it's twin psychopaths running a pharmaceutical business that is very dangerous in the way of releasing a drug in Washington, D.C. That in itself says, oh my God, this could reach a lot of big people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope so. Yes.
To come up with, why is it stationed in Washington, D.C.? Is it because of the political power there, or because it could have been really anywhere America?
Well, it could be anywhere. I have been born and raised I've been raised in Washington, D.C.,
okay.
My hometown for many, many years, so I know the city very well, and so therefore it was natural for me to place the action of the novel in Washington, but it also, I think it lends itself to, Washington lends itself to intrigue and conspiracy and various criminal contrivances. So I thought it was a natural, but this is the third in a series of books, all featuring the same detective, Marko Zorn, and they're all placed in Washington, and that's because Washington is I feel like any city, it's complicated.
Yeah.
But it has, two sides to it, or at least two sides. There's the rich and the poor, the powerful and the powerless, and the criminal and the law enforcement, and all kinds of divisions within the city. And I like to see those clashing. So that's one of the reasons I picked Washington and this particular setting.
Well, what I love about Marko Zorn is the fact that, to me, he puts people first. He's trying to do whatever he can to make sure that this company doesn't release anything more. And to me, that's a people first kind of thing.
Yes. Well, he has real strong values, and one of them is he really does not like bad people, taking advantage of the innocent and victims. And once he gets his teeth into an issue like this, he won't let it go, and he'll go to extremes to defeat his opponents when he feels that they're on the wrong side. And then, at the same time, he does cooperate with criminals. He makes a distinction between the kind of criminals that are operating, and but if he thinks the bad guys are causing great harm and damage, he'll go after them, and he won't relentlessly. He won't stop until he's either dead or has achieved his aim.
And you know what? You just led me right to one area I wanted to talk about. To be Marko and to be mixed up with these pharmaceutical drugs. My God, he's got to be a marked man. They want that man off the map.
That's right. Well, he was a marked man. They tried to kill him several times, including releasing a poisonous snake in his house, which he narrowly avoids getting killed by that snake. So yes, he's put in these Big Pharma. In this particular novel, I'm not making a generalization about all pharmaceuticals. In this particular case, is run by psychopathic twin brothers who will stop at nothing to achieve their ends, and they are quite ready to arrange for the murder of anybody who gets in their way. That includes a whistleblower and a scientist of the Food and Drug Administration who's after them as well, and they just dispose of these people, and they dispose of Marko Zorn too if they could. He just outsmarts them.
The book we're talking about is Firetrap. One thing that I really love about this book is that when it comes to true crime, you really dig in with mystery, police forensics, which everybody loves, and of course you've got the action. I mean, you really dig in deep to the formatics of this.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I certainly tried. That was my aim all along.
What kind of research do you do? Because, I mean, to be a fly on the wall while you're putting a book like this together, there's no way you're just sitting there, listening to some music and smiling and giggling away.
Well, you're asking me about how I do it? I mean, I'm not quite clear about it.
Yeah, because, I mean, this has got to get your heart rate up when you put a story like this together.
Yes. Well, what happened is that when I finished the last novel before Firetrap, which was Headshot, I began reading about the OxyContin and the distribution of the plague that these drugs were causing thousands of deaths and addictions around the country. And I was just outraged. And I thought, well, then something should be, it lends itself to a fictional story. And so I spent about 2 or 3 months reading books, nonfiction books about the companies that produce these drugs and the irresponsible tactics they use to sell and promote and market these drugs. And then I just converted that into a totally fictionalized version of OxyContin, making it a little bit worse than it actually is. And one of the things that really draws this story together is the painting, which to me is a character in the book itself. Well, that's of course critical to any fiction book, that the readers needs to be intrigued by the characters. Yep. The characters run the story. If the reader doesn't care about the characters, particularly the main characters, he's not going to care. He or she's not going to care about how the story turns out. So, forming and sculpting the characters is the most time-consuming and challenging part of writing a novel like this. It's probably the biggest challenge in writing fiction.
So are you like me when it comes to developing those characters? I like going into magazines that I don't usually read, and I'll pick out a character, and then that becomes the person I'm going to be writing about. So I can visually have a scene of that person.
Yes, well, yes. If I understand your question, you're asking about the characters, whether you believe them or not.
No, in other words, right? In other words, how do you envision those characters coming to life? Because one of my tricks in writing is I'll go get a picture of just anybody, and I'll say, "Okay, you're John Doe," and when I think of you, I see you.
That's right. Well, that's what the writer's challenge is.
Yes.
To create a vivid image of each character, or at least the major characters. You start off with a blank page, and then you need to create something that's going to be vivid and memorable for the reader. And but each character has got to be distinguished. Their voice has got to be different. Their mannerisms, the way they dress, the way they think, and as I say, that's the biggest challenge for any writer of fiction.
Wow. I got to ask you a question, kind of a personal question. When my book arrived, it came with a bookmark. Is that your signature, that every one of your books come with a bookmark?
I don't... Does it come with I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, it came with a bookmark.
It comes with a bookmark.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I can't answer your question.
I mean, I felt so honored that it's like, good, I don't have to bend the page. This is my own bookmark.
I'll have to compliment the publishers on that. That's a good idea. I wish I'd thought of it myself.
So when you have a book like this, like Firetrap, the thing is that I think the thing that really is intriguing to me is that you could have picked any pharmaceutical company, but you went with an off label, something that people don't know about. And I think that's so inspiring, because that to me is the mystery.
Yes, right. Well, I had to do that because I had to have a drugs in circulation, which was pretty much fatal. And so that's what I did. So there are two drugs that are in play in the novel, one of which is an approved drug by the Food and Drug Administration, or attempting to be approved, and then the other one off-label, circulating illegally, is a street drug. And yes, I don't think most pharmaceutical companies would actually do that, the second part, but in this part, this particular Big Pharma is so despicable and criminal that they do anything to make money, which of course most Big Pharmas will do.
Yeah. So where can people go to find out more about you and your writing? Because you mentioned that this is the third book in this series.
That's right. Well, I was, after I graduated from law school on a brief tour in the U.S. Army, I joined the United States Foreign Service, served in this Foreign Service for 20-some years, served all over the world, came back to Washington in retirement, and decided I needed to keep really busy, because I'm a kind of busy person, and I like to work, and therefore I decided to write. I did first for several years. I wrote plays because I was enamored of the theater for a while, and I wrote plays which are produced in Washington and New York, and actually there's one coming up in London in just about 6 weeks or so. So, but then I decided to move into genre fiction, and I decided on the thriller format. Could have been anything else. Well, I wouldn't have done young adult. I'm a little old for young adult, but I could have done science fiction or something else. But I thought I wanted something that was very exciting, that engaged the reader quickly, and on a good day, I can write very fast, and from what I understand for the readers, many readers can read once they get started on it, or read the book in a day or two.
Yep.
And so that's what I was looking for. And now that's what I'm now working on. The Firetrap is the third in this series of Marko Zorn novels. I'm working on the fourth one, and beyond that, well, maybe I'll do something else. But in any case, I keep being very busy.
Wow. Well, you've got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, sir.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I appreciate your welcome.
You bet. And you know what? And thank you so much for serving our nation, sir. I'm so glad that you shared that with people, because they need to know and they need to honor those that gave their life to this country.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you, 100%.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Okay. You take care.